Hello everyone, nubkeks here, and welcome back to Nub Raids. It's a familiar sight, I think, this week because we're back with the third Supreme Champion. And yes, we'll be back for Kale in a bit too, don't you worry about that. But today we're looking at Supreme Galek. We've looked at Elhain, who is slightly better than I thought she would be, actually. And then Aethel, who, well, she's interesting. Let's leave it at that. But today we're looking at Galek. We're on the test server. Shout out to Plarium, as always, for letting me on the test server as part of the content creator program to make these videos. Well, let's take a look at Galek. As you guys know, when I did my preview of these four Supreme Champions, for me, Galek was rated number 1. Do I still feel that way? When we look at him, let's take a look at his kit very quickly. Exemplar of Rage is A1, double hitter, extra 10% chance to crit. Each hit has a 40 that books to a 60% chance to increase the duration of HP burns on the target by 1 turn. The decent A1, nothing too special. Let's actually go to his A3 first before his A2, so it makes sense. Unreasoning Outburst books to a 3-turn cooldown. Attacks all enemies, extra 10% chance to crit. 75 booking to a 100% chance of placing HP burn and block buffs for 2 turns. And also places decreased speed on targets whose turn meter is higher than 50%. His A2 then synergizes very well. Bloodshed Tempest, 3-turn cooldown when booked. Attacks 4 times at random. Puts increased attack on this champion for 3 turns before attacking. And each hit, extra 10% chance to crit. And 75 booking to 100% chance to instantly activate any HP burns on each target, which will decrease the duration of those burns by 1 turn, and fills his turn meter by 30% if 3 or more burns are activated during the attack. Actually a pretty cool passive as well. Laugh at Danger, 4-turn cooldown, but on that 4-turn cooldown, if you get feared, frozen, all of that, hard crowd control basically, you'll instantly remove it, fully heal him, and give him an extra turn straight away. 33% attack in all battles aura. We put this stuff together. Now, guys, one of the it's one of those things that people say that has been very frustrating to me throughout this whole Supreme thing. And I get where you're coming from, right? I do. But they go, these Supreme Champions, they're not Void Legendaries, and they're just diluting the pool. And now there's certainly a big element of truth in that in terms of diluting the Void pool and the champion numbers growing in the game, even just in general, not alone the Void Legendaries. There's certainly an element of truth there. But I think it's also very disingenuous, and it really misses a lot of the actual specifics or what is going on. When I'm looking at Galek, when I'm thinking about HYDRA, which is the hardest PvE content in the game, you know, beating Nightmare HYDRA is still the hardest thing to do in the entire game, outside of, obviously, Arena, where you're fighting other players, and it's as hard as the other players are difficult to beat. The most important debuff. What is the number 1 debuff for HYDRA? It's block buffs. That is the most important thing to have. What's probably the second most important debuff is decreased speed. And we have both of those things with Supreme Galek. On top of that, he's bringing HP burn, which is nice damage, but then exploding those HP burns, that can potentially, we'll see if that is the case, could potentially be more than nice damage. This could be incredibly good damage. Not to mention that he can break free of the provokes and the true fears every now and then, which is kind of nifty as well. And yeah, that becomes really good. So when you tell me we've got a void champion with block buffs, that becomes extremely good because that is a big limitation for HYDRA. What are the most popular ones? Probably one of the definitive champions for HYDRA is Ugo with decreased defense block buffs on a 3-turn cooldown. That is what we're looking for. Effectively 100% chance to block buffs with the right masteries and booked out in enough enemies. 3-turn cooldown, but she can weak hit, and that affects you on certain affinities. Another good option that I'm a huge fan of course, Archbishop Pinthroy. He's got block buffs on a 3-turn cooldown, spirit affinity. But in terms of really good void affinities, it's much more difficult. I'm not saying Tuhanarak is the best option there. But it becomes pretty difficult. You know, you've got, in the epics, you've got Umbral as a decent, actually 3-turn block buff, as a decent budget option, but she doesn't bring anything else. So it's really been dominated by Ugo and Pinthroy, Tuhanarak if you have her, but it's difficult, it's limited. Let's see what this guy can do. Can he compete? Oh, we actually have Senda. Check that out. We've Senda do a key here. Pretty cool with Supreme Galek. Let me show you my key. We're going to jump into Nightmare. I've done 2 different keys, and we're bringing in a good team because we're going into Nightmare HYDRA, guys. Let me hit start. Let's dive in. Let's see it in action, shall we? So let's go. We've got, obviously, Supreme Galek. He is coming in, and he's bringing, of course, that burn and the AoE block buffs. We do have him in the lead, and we're going to be running Inquisitor Shamail. I'll show you a version without Inquisitor Shamail as well. But he's going to be turn meter boosted by this Head of Torments. He's going to get lots of turns, and boom, he goes in with that A2, and you can see a big chunk of damage coming in already. It's pretty cool, and he's going to build up to extra turns. He will extend some of those burns, etc., etc. Now, going alongside him, you can see the decreased speed is out on everything as well, which is really, really good. What do we combo with him? Well, this is the big thing. Because we're not using Ugo, who is sort of, let's say, the standard, the default that most of you are using, well, we've got block buffs coming from Galek. That means we need to get that decreased defense elsewhere. So we're actually able to bring in Lydia, who, again, everyone is going to have. By the time you're on Nightmare HYDRA, I'd be very, very shocked if you were doing Nightmare HYDRA before you've beaten Faction Wars. Very shocked. So Lydia is definitely a champion everyone can have. And she brings us decreased defense and weaken AoE. She brings a backup block buffs, which is kind of nice. And of course, she's bringing the increased speed and strengthen for our whole team. So between these 2 champions, we're potentially getting lots of damage from Galek and burns. We're getting the decreased defense weaken. We're getting increased speed. We're getting decreased speed and the strengthen in there as well. Krisk is obviously an amazing combo, and obviously for Nightmare HYDRA, extremely good here as well. He's going to be giving us protection, and I'll talk about why that's important in a second. He gives us a provoke. Krisk does bring decreased speed, but it's inconsistent. So they make... Oh, we actually got unlucky 3% steal right there, but we'll be fine. But yeah, Krisk is not a great decreased speed champ, so that can be a problem we can run into. Is getting consistent decreased speed. You'll often see Royal Guards run with accuracy to provide a supplement decreased speed for HYDRA comps for that reason. Well, that's where Galek really synergizes well. Krisk will land some decreased speed. Galek will be doing the bulk of it, though. We've got a Reviver in here. I actually think there's very nice synergy with Elva. Reason being, Galek, I've built him in Relentless. And he's also going to be taking lots of turns. Elva, with her passive, heals him every time he takes a turn, which is good. She also cleanses off the debuffs. And if we do die, she'll bring a revive as well. Single target only, but still. And then, of course, Shamail is in there so that we can, just not get feared constantly. And we've got Husk for another source of damage. And backup Provoke for the head of Decay, who's actually not here right now. There you go. One thing I want to point out straight away, guys, how is the damage going? Well, we just got a turn there, but we've been doing almost 1 million damage per turn, which is kind of insane. Now, that rate won't keep up. It won't maintain that high, but that's kind of nuts. That's extremely good damage output. Every single time we're getting a turn, Galek is going to be doing that. And this is where that speed becomes important as well. The decreased speed from him and the increased speed from Lydia, I think that is where that is so strong, right? Is that we pop out these burns, we blow them all up, but then we get them back out again. So we often get the value of the burn ticking, and then we're getting the value of the burn blowing up as well, right? Because it's not that important for HYDRA that the burns are always up, but broadly speaking, we are going to have them up nearly the whole time anyway. Now, the one thing to watch out for sure, let's say we're comparing Galek here to, say, Geomancer, right? You might bring a Geomancer in as your burner. Now, with Geomancer, he's going to provide protection for your team, right? With his passive, he deflects some of the damage back. Oh my god, another 3% steal on Krisk? That's very unlucky. But we've got that super consistent block buffs. Thank you, Mr. Galek. We appreciate that. Stopping Mischief from getting all these buffs on us. We would not want that to happen. Geomancer, he's reducing the damage you take. Now, Galek, you'll see, if you've been paying attention to Head of Wrath, every time Galek, he can potentially pop 4 burns at once, which is 4 ticks on the Head of Wrath. So he really does make the Head of Wrath pop off like crazy. Like, this head is going to be just going ham on you. It's going to be beating the heck out of you, okay? So you really do have to watch out for that. Very strongly encourage you to watch out for it. That is why we have a Reviver. I have a Guardian set on Shamail here, and we've got a Krisk in to protect. You're going to need a good protector. You're going to need someone like that. Like, for example, right here, we could click on this head. Oh, he's got despair. So this is going to cleanse. That's fine. Yeah, that is, I think, one of the biggest dangers, the biggest downsides. Exploding burns. On the positive side, it's going to kill the head of the poison head, Blight, extremely fast. But you're going to activate Head of Wrath very quickly as well, which can be scary. And especially in this case where we're not manualing. You see, we got an extra turn there. I do have him in Relentless, so we got the block buffs up, but you could potentially get that increased attack on Wrath, and we don't have a way to remove it. So it's just some stuff to watch out for and be aware of. Look, we've seen 5 minutes of this run. You kind of get how this run goes. What sort of performance are we going to see, and have I seen out of Ultimate Galek? Let me show you some numbers. So first up, I want to show you this one. So this was the first run I did earlier, where I usually run Geomancer and Ugo. So I swapped them out, right? I took out Ugo, I put in Lydia. I took out Geomancer, I put in Supreme Galek. And this is what we did, full auto, right? 43.44 million in 13 minutes. That's a very quick Nightmare HYDRA run. And we can see Supreme Galek coming in. He's actually out-damaged both Royal Guard and Husk. And then you can see, obviously, we changed up the team to the team that you're seeing right here, the team that you're seeing right now. How did that change things? What actually happened when we did that? I did a full test run, of course. I only did one because it was quite long. And this is what we got, guys. This team right here that you were watching, it took me 42 minutes to run the whole thing. And again, this was full auto. Full auto the whole way through. I did click heads when they devoured champions, but that was it. Supreme Galek came in, guys, with 50.7 million damage. And Husk with 31 million. So he did a massive chunk of damage. He's being boosted by Shamail. He's getting extra turns. We did 112 million on Nightmare. That's my personal record. My record up to this point is about 90 million. I think 98 maybe on the test server. 112.6 million, or almost 0.7 on manual, which I think is, well, honestly, it's incredibly impressive. Let's leave it on full auto here again, especially with burns like Blight right here is going to get absolutely shredded. We could potentially, unfortunately, get a little unlucky. We'll see what happens. Right here, there's a good chance we're going to get a cleanse from this head, which sucks a little bit. Oh yeah, okay, well, we broke the guy free anyway. But there's a good chance we get a cleanse right here. But you can see we're approaching. I might even pause the video in a second, and I'll take you through to the 1 key damage. But as you can see, full auto. It's really no problem at all. He just destroys it. So yeah, I tell you what, I'll pause the video. I'll be right back when we've secured the 1 key. So I'll be back in just a couple of minutes. Be right back. All right, guys, we're coming back almost there. Actually took a little longer than I expected, to be honest. That's okay. We're coming up to that 1 key. I always forget exactly what the 1 key is. I always do, 37. Sometimes I even just do 38 just to be sure. I get nervous, So we'll stop at 37 mil. Oh, well, there we go. We actually basically did almost 38. Fine. But there we go. 13 minutes. Smooth sailing. Cruised to that 1 key. Absolutely super easy. Full auto. I didn't even target decapitated heads. They just ripped through. Done. Absolutely incredible. Supreme Galek, 17.3 million damage. He's done almost half the damage of the team. Of course, he's been boosted by Shamail, which is up a good bit. Almost 11 million from Husk to give you a good comparison. So yeah, I think that really says it all. I mean, Acrizia is going to outdamage him. Like, that's obvious. Acrizia outdamages everybody. But by a factor of 2, I mean, he's being boosted by Shamail. If it wasn't for Shamail, it'd be, Acrizia would be further ahead. But you expect Acrizia to be further ahead than everyone by miles. But Galek is bringing all those debuffs as well. Honestly, when it comes to HYDRA, this guy is S tier. Like, he's S tier through and through. In fact, I think, for me, the best champion for HYDRA would be Acrizia. In terms of voids, Acrizia. And then Krisk is up there as well. Acrizia and Krisk. But honestly, I think almost in the same conversation, really, as them, Supreme Galek, for me, he's up there. Right? He is in that same conversation. And then you do have champions as well in there, like Hanarak, of course. But he's top tier. Like, seriously, having HP burn, block buffs, decrease speed in 1 move, and all of this damage is just insane. He's like Ninja on steroids, right? He's Ninja, but that brings decreased speed and block buffs as well. and more consistent burns. Like, he is just seriously good. He's really so good. Let me show you how I built him, and then we'll do a quick Ice Golem run as well. Why the heck not? So I put him in Relentless and Perception. This is like your standard build for your block buff champions, right? It's the same you do with Ugo, Archbishop, Pintroy, whatever. You're running them in Relentless. You want them taking as many turns as possible because it's so crucial to keep block buffs up as often as possible. And like when a cleanse does come through or a new head spawns in, you want them just full auto getting back to it. It's really important. And now Galek isn't going to be healing your team and protecting him like those champions do. Ugo and Pintroy bring a lot of protection to Hanorak as well. He doesn't bring that, but he brings the damage instead. So that's what we've done. And then it was sort of a mixed build I gave him. So I gave him quite a bit of HP and also a good chunk of defense, right? I did give him some attack. I got him the 90% crit rate and a bit of crit damage, but mostly really I was focused on lots of speed and decent survivability. So it's quite a mixed build. 400 accuracy is plenty for Nightmare HYDRA. We've overshot it. You could possibly even get away with less, but it's really safe to build for about 380, and then you could let whatever charge focus carry you over. I'll just go for 400 because I can, right? But yeah, that's basically what I've done. So I put him in my best kind of Relentless gear almost. We don't have the craziest glyphs, but looking for that sort of a mixture of, well, lots of speed, really. Just looking for speed. I did put him in crit rate gloves. I feel like this is kind of optional though. Like, yeah, he does damage when he hits, but honestly, you could put him in HP percent gloves. That might even be better. I did put him in a HP percent chest and speed boots. And yeah, I gave him a defense ring. So we had a bit of flat defense because his base defense is pretty bad. I did give him a crit damage neck and accuracy banner with 3 rolls and speed, which is nice, but no glyph, really. Small glyph. So yeah, I mean, I don't know if this is the best build or min-max. I thought it works really well, but he might be better off with, honestly, like HP percent gloves and just a HP or defense a neck, probably defense necklace, just to make him as tanky as possible, because really the damage is coming from the burns and exploding them. It's not really coming from his direct hits. For his masteries, I built him something like this. Now, the only concern I have, War Master, I think is going to add, it does add a few million damage to HYDRA. It's quite good. It's quite very good. You could build him more defensively, kind of like a ninja defensive build. Same thing for maybe Ice Golem, which we're going to look at in a second, because I think War Master is actually kind of a liability in Ice Golem. It can trigger his retaliation hit, which you really don't want, whereas the burns will bypass it. That's something to consider. I do really like Life Drinker to try keep him alive here as well. I gave him like the extended buff thing. I don't know. There wasn't really anything else here that stood out. Definitely extending his burns is really good because he does rip through them. I did give him a small chance to get the cooldown. So I think fairly standard masteries, but you could potentially ditch the offense tree. Oh, I gave him attack here, by the way, because he only needs 90% crit, and I hit that with the gear. I really feel like this extra 10% chance to crit is kind of a trap. Like, I don't really see the point. And you could just build in pure tank, and it might be safer, especially if you don't have a good protector like Krisk. But yeah, let's dive into an Ice Golem run. And what I did, pretty simple. Honestly, this is very similar to the team I've run before. So this is probably not a perfect team. I've seen, people already coming up with teams that can maybe somewhat consistently farm this, like Seer clearing the waves very quickly. And you can maybe get a consistent farm in maybe a minute and a half, right? With just something like Walking Tomb Drang and a Seer team to get through the waves. And people are using Ninja. They don't have Ultimate Galek yet. The Ultimate Galek here sort of going in where you might put a Ninja, basically to bring extra burns to rip through the boss and the ads on the boss when we get there. Really nice thing about Ultimate Galek is he can blow up burns on the ads, which is not something that Ninja can do. Ninja only explodes the burns on the boss, which is kind of cool, actually. In terms of Ultimate Galek. So that's quite nice. But yeah, you can see we're getting through the waves pretty quick, but not as quick as we possibly could, if we were running a Seer type team. I have tried the Seer type teams, and they're not quite 100% consistent for me. But yeah, just something for you guys to know. But yeah, we'll figure out more of this stuff and really min-max Ice Golem with kind of more practice and stuff, especially when whatever changes they're going to put in for hard mode dungeons. We know there's a few bugs. I think Ice Golem's likely to stay the same. We'll figure that out as we go. The Ultimate Galek wasting his move there, unfortunately, right before we get to the boss. So we're getting to the boss in about 1 minute, and that's where we're going to lose a good bit of time. But just watch this. Now we're at the boss. Where old Galek is attempting to blow up Burns. It's not going to work for him. And this is where I'm talking about maybe I should be building him a bit tankier, right? Because he does get smacked. It does hurt a good bit. And unfortunately there, because of the decreased accuracy, we we miss some of the burns. So that sucks a little bit, but we'll get back. HP balance goes on. We're surviving. We really want to get that decreased attack out there. So we've been slowed down a bit here, unfortunately, by the decreased accuracy. Not a huge deal. And we could maybe tune it in such a way to ensure that maybe I could have Python save as A2 for when we get to the boss and we get the block debuffs up, for example. But hey, it is what it is. We don't mind too much. But yeah, you can see like this boss, it pumps out a lot of damage, right? And we're expecting Galek and definitely definitely the rat to die at some point here. Well, Galek's definitely dead. He's got decreased defense on right now. Ooh, and we are dead. There we go. Live video. This is the problem with this. That is the problem with that. Let's see. Can we make that more consistent? Let's actually tweak it right here. I did test runs. I did. And that didn't happen. But I do feel like it is a bit tricky. Let's see if we turn off shed skin on the wave. That should help. Can't really turn anything off there. Kind of want Drang to do his thing. That's where it does get a bit nasty with Galek. And, well, not with Galek, but with anyone, right? If you do too much damage to that boss, he can wreck you if you don't kill the ads first. And I just find you can get a bit unlucky. So I found it difficult to come up with an exact team. I think the advantage of a seer teams would be like you let seer die and you get a champion. Like I've seen 2 Hanorak, Walking Tomb Drang, Ninja get to the boss and do it really fast. The seer dies off and someone else dies off. Maybe Lydia or someone dies off as well. So there's stuff to min-max there. This is going to be a tricky one to farm, but let's see. Let's get to it. You've seen the waves. I'll pause it. We'll come back to the boss. We'll see if we can actually manage the boss this time or if we get stomped down again. All right, we're about to reach the boss. Round 2. Can we do it this time? Let's find out. Let's find out together. The moment of truth. Yeah, I think maybe removing... I think we've got War Master on both Nishak and Ultimate Galek. That might be the risk. Or just bad luck. But let's see how we go. So there we go. We do have... I set Python up, so we've got the decreased attack out this time. Should hopefully keep us alive. I expect Tomb Drang will come in and HP equalize. Yeah, there we go. So we're full health. Nishak might die anyway. No, he survives. That decreased attack makes a huge difference. Of course, the big issue being that the boss cleanses it off. And if the ads are still alive and we hit one of those HP thresholds, it does get awkward. We shall see. Yeah, like the boss smacks. This is where definitely more health on that Galek, more defense will help a bit. But we would have wiped him. If we built Galek tankier last time, we would still wiped the boss one-shot the entire team because we trigger that passive. So we need these ads to die. Luckily, Galek does help with that pretty well. So we shall see. I'm getting a little nervous. I feel like we've got to be close to one of those thresholds. Luckily, Tomb Drang is great for this as well because he pops those burns. There you go. You can see the cleanse comes in and that smack really hurts. But the HP equalize comes in. I feel like, honestly, the best burner for this is probably just Tomb Drang. Like, he's so good. But Galek is very solid as well. And he does pump out a lot of damage. Now, we got a ton of safety here once this ad dies. Really not worried at this point. And at this point, honestly, keeping burns up on the boss is going to be tricky because, well, you can see between the boss taking turns and Tomb Drang doing his thing, we slow down a bit because we can't keep burns up the full time. Decrease accuracy. It's a little unfortunate. Tomb Drang might have his move ready to go. No, HP balance. That's okay. We actually get a convenient decrease attack back on the boss. That should keep us in the game. No cleanse for Galek. He does miss the burn, but I think Tomb Drang's going to land his, so it should be all good. Yeah, so we'll get through. So it's not quite a speed team, this one. And to be honest, I'm going to be honest with you. Well, I do think that Galek is clearly very good for this. If you've got a ninja, I think you do the job. I think if you've got Cronam, he does the job. And I do think if you've got Tomb Drang, I think it's probably very possible. You can see Galek popping off a bit. It's probably very possible to build a very fast team without needing Galek or Ninja or any of them just in general. You could probably do it just with Tomb Drang with the right setup, with the right team. We just have to figure out exactly what that is for that 100% consistency, you know? So while I think Ultimate Galek, or Supreme Galek, excuse me, is good for this, I think he's, you know, he's not absolutely crazy essential. He's just likely likely to be very good. Like, he is the top damage there at the end when it comes to the boss. I think he's likely to be very good. It's really for HYDRA, though, where he stands out for me, where it's like, okay, you know, for Ice Golem, could be nice to have. There may be some speed teams with him, and that could be brilliant, but it doesn't seem essential. But man, I tell you, if there's some sort of event to get Supreme Galek, as anyone who likes HYDRA will feel, I think, this is a champion you really want to have. Like, he's really, really good. He's really good. He's one of the best champions just in the game, just in general, for HYDRA. It's very strong. And I don't even know, you can probably come up with better teams than the one I came up with as well. Maybe get a Hex in there. You could do some cool stuff. But yeah, like, Supreme Galek, he's properly good. Void Legendary. I think he's definitely Void Legendary quality. Tons of damage. Block buffs decrease speed. All in a thing. A passive, which I don't think works with Shamail. It gets a bit buggy. Funny that. But yeah, this guy, he's insane. I think he's great. Really good. S tier HYDRA champion through and through. Not crazy useful elsewhere, but possibly. Maybe people will come up with some really cool teams with him for Doom Tower bosses and whatnots. But yeah, if you get this guy, you're happy. Like, he's going in a HYDRA team and he's gonna hard carry it. Guys, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I will, oh, someone's giving him a review. Campaign, arena, probably pretty bad there. Let me see, there's the 5 for HYDRA. That's what we're looking for. Guys, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.